it's like an interview.
They don't have enough money.
A lot of people want to immigrate somehow in other countries.
I think it's like a huge relocation time.
The coaching studies also helped me to develop empathy.
Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, guys. Today we have another podcast for Belov.Podcast and special guest from Paris, France. Her name is Yulia Bonnet. And I'm happy to introduce her quickly, but probably it's better to let her introduce herself. So Yulia, hi, and please tell us a little bit about your background, about you.
Great, thank you, Alex. Hi, everyone. I'm happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me. So my name is Yulia Bonnet. I am a professional coach and career management consultant. And today I help French and foreign executives build their careers in France. So today I have coached 100 of professionals on their career journey. And I also organize workshops on different topics, my favorite topics, which is LinkedIn, networking, and also self-confidence, which is really important when you want to build an effective career. And this year, it's a new challenge for me. I'm going to work with companies, so I'm now preparing commercial propositions, some topics I'm working on for companies to work as a career coach and external career coach, external professional coach for companies.
Yeah, thank you, Yulia. We'll talk about this further. Mm-hmm. So you started as a part of some big companies, right? You moved to France at some moment, and but at the same time you realized you feel the confidence to consult people in career. Mm-hmm. And as we talked before, you said that you started from Expats.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
Yeah. So what was important for them? I mean, I would like to dedicate this podcast more for people looking for a job, especially a job in other countries, not in the country they're living in. So probably this podcast could be really, really important for them. And I think we can start from understanding what usually expats looking for when they move to another country or in the preparation of moving.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, I've started working with, so I'm a Franco-Russian today, so it's been 14 years that I live in Paris.
Wow.
I moved 14 years ago. Feels like an eternity, and at the same time, yesterday. Today, so I've started as a career consultant. Actually, it was a friend that also from Russia that asked me for some career advice, and it basically started like that. So I realized that I have a lot to share, actually. So I've started to sharing some tips with my small community, and it started like that. And today, especially the situation in the world, we're not going into details. Everyone is aware. So a lot of people want to immigrate somehow in other countries, in Europe and in North America. So what I see is that people that want to move in some countries, and it's actually normal that you know how it works in your country and you start to apply the same things in the new country, but most of the time it doesn't work, and sometimes it's just some small things. For example, I know that in Russia we are kind of Swiss knives, when you work a few years in this field and then you work a few years in another field, and when you apply for a job you will put everything on your resume because you are really proud of what you achieved so far, and you want to share, like, look at me, I know to do everything. But in France particularly, so I'm specialized in especially the French market, it doesn't work this way at all, because I've been a little bit on the other side, so from HR perspective, and sometimes I was receiving some resumes. When I look at it, I don't know for what type of position the person is applying, and this is completely wrong. So for me, really the HR has like a few seconds to look at first on your resume, and it has to be convicting from the start, So it's not for HR to pick up, oh, okay, I have this position and this person is applying. So now I will look, okay, what has done? Okay, maybe this experience is relative somehow for this position that I have. But it's not his or her job. It's the job of applicant, to do this. So like sit down and say, okay, I've done this, I've done that. So now I want to apply for this position. So the first step is to know, do my previous experience actually relate somehow to this new position, or like maybe some competences that I used to have for this or that previous jobs may apply to this new job. So first one, you have to be sure that it's true, for yourself. And then the whole difficulty for me is to show it through your resume, because resume is a document, some cold document, let's say, and you have to put all these like really valuable, relevant information. So the person, when she or he receives the resume, he's like, oh, okay, it's for this position. So he actually knows exactly for what position he received the resume for, because you have to imagine the job of the person, the HR that is looking for people. She has maybe, or he. I said she. I don't know why. So maybe she or he has 20 different positions. For example, a IT director, a consultant in tech, fintech. I don't know, somehow a sales rep for different departments. So the person doesn't really remember, all the positions she had. So she supposed to, with the resume, understand very quickly for which position is that. So this is the first, a very important step, I think, and the very big cultural difference, I would say. So and when people just come to another country, they're trying to do, on their own, because they don't know a lot of people and they don't know how to do it. So they're trying to do this. And when they send hundreds of resume to some companies, just doing the copy paste, just changing the company name, and they're just sending, I don't know, maybe 200, 300, and like have absolutely no response. It doesn't mean that the person, like the profile, their background is not relevant. It just means that they didn't put, everything together to be transparent and to be understood on this new market. So this is really important.
All right, thank you very much. I think it's a very good point about comparing the candidates with the sales reps, because what you actually do is do cold sales, trying to do a cold sales. That's really a good point. And I did, I think, more than 1,000 interviews during my career in retail, and then in web development as a founder of agency. And I think 99% do not understand this. And you're right, you do actually the same as sales process. You try to send 100, 200, 300 emails with the same document you prepared, like by just copying someone. And that's really bad idea, because your conversion rate will be close to zero, or most probably zero. Especially when your market of candidates, of your competitors actually, is so overcrowded. You have, for popular companies, for popular positions, you can have 100 competitors, 200 competitors per place, per position. So I completely understand this idea of creating a good sales document, especially when it's your first touch point with with HR department, with HR specialist. And I maybe you have an answer, because I still do not understand how people can be so ignorant on this part and just make it like worst possible sometimes and hope that it doesn't matter. I'm good I'm good specialist in this field, in this industry. For example, I'm good engineer. So I don't really have to sell myself, probably they think. But when I see this resume, it means like this CV looks so bad. Of course, I don't have a time to read every CV if I have 500. I remember try to find a designer for web designer, and as it is a very popular profession, I had more than 500 CVs, and I tried to check everything by myself. I did it, but I don't have a time to read it more than 20, 30 seconds each one, because I know the most important points I have to find in every document. If I am not seeing it, it means it doesn't fit the position, because person has to understand something. If they don't have a good link to their profile, to their portfolio, and the worst thing you can do is, designers, please take this carefully. You never should put your Google Drive portfolio in your CV. It's the worst idea ever. I'm not going to go to your Google Drive to try to understand what these files names mean. Try to find the right document. Use platform. For example, when I'm looking for designer, I'm looking for Behance profile. If I'm looking for developer, I'm checking their GitHub account. So so the question is, do you focus on any specific industry, or you work with any industries and you just work as a consultant for overall experience of looking for a new job?
I don't have any specialization, especially as a career coach, because like coaching techniques allow me to treat any professional problem or career problem you have, because so actually I have two different in France we call it casquette, two different types actually of how I work actually. So from one point, as a consultant, I'm going to share my own experience, things that I've already seen, even industries I've already worked in, or maybe my clients worked in. So I have also, it's been 14 years in Paris, so I have a lot of contacts, a lot of people I know in different countries, in different industries, so I can help with that. But as a career coach doesn't give advice. Coach will only ask questions, but not any questions, so just very, I've been studying for 8 months to know how to ask questions, but it's because actually, depending on the question I choose or the question I ask you, it will, focus our discussion on this or that, area. And a good coach also will not only will guide you, but also will ask you, okay, you were talking about this, that, and this, which way you want to go. So every time I'm asking you to be sure I'm not manipulating, because I can manipulate, if I want you to, to have this or that conclusion by the questioning, I can, lead you to this. But that's why I'm asking at every stage, like if I hear different things, okay, which one is more important for you today, or which one you want to be concentrated on today. So what is your need? I'm always, going back to you. So I don't need really to know all the industries, even if sometimes I do, of course. So yeah, but what also is important, when you were asking also why people are doing this, I think it doesn't, they don't like do it on purpose. They just do how they can, the coaching studies also helped me to develop empathy. But what can happen also when you start doing it by yourself, you lose your self-confidence. And that's why I was doing also workshop on this topic, because it's really important, you were talking about, I'm looking for a designer, but if he doesn't show this particular app, or program that he's managing. It doesn't mean he doesn't know it. It just he didn't put it, But you still put it in a bin, in a trash bin, because for you, if it doesn't show, you cannot know. That's why it's really important to be guided, and like my role is actually to save time, because sometimes people after 1 year they're like, oh my God, what's going on? Like on French job market, seems like there is no need for me or for a profile like mine, but it's probably not true. It's just the way you're doing things, and also the self-confidence. Like at the end, after 500 resumes, it's like, oh my God, I don't even want to open, another job searching site. So, but also people, what I see, sometimes they reject, the whole experience they used to have in their countries. When they come to a new countries, they're like, oh yeah, but it doesn't count here, or maybe it's not that relevant. But if you look at it in another way, actually, when you start with what you've done, and when you come to another countries, if, for example, you have to work, you used to work in international companies before, you probably have contacts even now when you move to another country. So the whole thing is to activate like your old contacts. And sometimes it's really funny, because sometimes people really think, oh, I don't know anyone, I don't have a lot of, my network is not large. But when you go deeper, actually, of course, he does know, some people. And I think people actually is really, it's really important, to work on this self-confidence, to go out, maybe sometimes out of your comfort zone, because I personally love talking to people everywhere. I talk to people on the street, on the metro, on my salsa, dancing, of course, in spite of the loud music. And sometimes people are surprised, but most of the time, like I think I've never experienced someone, rejecting, or someone preferring looking at their phone instead of talking, to a real person, because especially after COVID, we are much more even than before attracted to, we are human, so we need to be around people. And they say, talking about when you work on your own, when you have your own business, if you work alone, for example, or on distance with your team, it's really important, even like once a day, going somewhere, like even to take a lunch away and just talking, even like casual conversation with someone behind, in the supermarket, or in a bakery shop, I don't know, just because we need this particular, even like not meaning a lot, conversations in our life, like to be in a good balance with ourselves, and like we need it as humans. So.
All right, so keep social networking, social activities, you think is quite important to be successful,
yes,
even when you're looking for a job.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah, and especially like in France, because it's not something that is really, I think in Russia it's something that we don't do much, because or some people do, and we consider them, to be going over the heads of someone, when you got a job because someone, and it's really negative. In France also, but it doesn't work this way, because the fact that someone, it will open a door for you, but you will have still do all the interviews, and it helps you a little bit to get in the right contact, but it doesn't, like, people will never hire you just because someone, even if this someone is really high, like a higher, like a director or something. They will not do this, but it will help you, because even for me, it's really funny, because my first internship in France, I found it on a friend's anniversary. And it was not, my goal. When I came, I was, I don't remember, like 23, and I just came to the party, and we were talking, and there was this director, and he was like, okay, what are you going to do now? And like, I'm looking for an internship. And he's like, oh, okay, where from? So I just talked briefly about my background, and he said, oh, I think that someone in my company is looking for an intern with the Russian language.
All right.
And that's how I got my internship. But actually, he just put me, in contact with this person, and then we did the interview. And
warm intro. It's the same what happens for startups industry, for example. It's just an opportunity to have a conversation with someone would be hard to get in touch, because people are very busy. But if someone recommends you, means it's already not a cold intro, and they are more loyal to you from the beginning. But of course, you have to prove your skills to be like invited to for some position or to some company. Of course, I think it happens in any country. Also, I think that right now we have a lot of like movements between countries. I think it's like a huge relocation time. A lot of United States people come to Portugal, for example, to Europe. A lot of UK citizens come to Europe, Spain, Portugal, like south part of Europe. A lot of Europeans go to United States instead. A lot of Canadians go to Europe. So people just feel it's easier now to move somewhere else, not like before, even 10, 20 years ago. It was much, much more time taken and money taken. But right now it's pretty easy, especially when you can work remotely. It solves like 90% of your problems.
Yeah, that's true. Even for French people, when people come to France and they're like, "Oh, French people don't speak any English," and I know the answer for that. Some French people do speak English, but they live outside of France. Like, me as a Russian, so they all think that, in Europe or in the US, when they meet someone from, for example, Russia or another country, oh yeah, you're speaking so well English or French. And I'm like, yeah, that's why I moved, There is a consequence, because I was interested. I was open to other countries, and just to see, what's going on, and just, to being curious. And the very interesting melting pot also, it's in Hong Kong, for example. I've lived there for almost like 5-6 months.
Okay.
Like in Hong Kong, I think most of people are foreigners, because like you have like very different communities: Canadian, Russian speaking, and French speaking, and Italian speaking, and it's just a melting pot. And it's really funny, because it's really small, but it's still kind of big. And for me, it's like an Asian New York. So it's really, really funny place.
Yeah, I've been there once for, I don't remember, like 4 or 5 days. Yeah, it was interesting, especially when we moved there. It was a travel from Thailand. Then we moved back to Thailand. But during that trip, so those huge buildings, like business districts, everything is so different. It looks pretty similar. I think it looks better than New York, honestly. Not that vibe, but it's much more modern and developed. Better, I think. Yeah, city is great. But I've seen a lot of expats over there. Like in every restaurant, every place, running people, almost all of them was European-looking people. Yeah, but this is Hong Kong. Same like Singapore.
Yeah, I haven't been to this one, but yeah.
There's those definitely nice places, and I know that a lot of Western citizens go to Asia, especially Singapore, Hong Kong, and China sometimes. So yeah, it's a great relocation time. And I think that makes even more important your expertise in career consulting. So how competitive this industry? Do you have a lot of competitors for career consulting? Is it huge agencies, or it's kind of freelancers or like solopreneurs who consult people, how people can find you or someone else for a consultant needs? Just
it's really like since a few years it started to develop. So I know both Russian and French market. So in the Russian market there are a lot of freelancers, especially after 2021. There are a lot of people that but you have to be careful because not of them are real professionals. And for example, for me, when I started to share my experience in the beginning, and then I did a diploma on career consulting in France. So to be, in line with that was my guess more or less. And now it's confirmed. Yeah, that's true. What I was talking about all this time, and also career coaching last year. So, but there are sometimes people that just share their experience, but you have to be careful because not every experience apply, like someone else's experience doesn't particularly maybe apply to your case. So you have to be careful and to really see the background of the person before you're going to take consulting with this or that person. So there are a lot of them on the Russian speaking market. Most of them are freelancers, I would say, or maybe sometimes they are HR at some companies and they do this consulting work on the side also. There are some bigger companies also right now, but in France it's really different because in France, for this particular point, they are kind of ahead for once because France is kind of a conservative country on a lot of aspects. But on this particular point, they're ahead, and they have France. I don't know if you know, but it's a kind of a socialistic country actually. So there is a bunch of services that are free of charge for different group of people. So there is a service for people looking for jobs, for example. Of course, it's in French, but so for everyone who is looking for a job in France, you can apply, but you have to know about it,
What kind of service do you mean?
You have a consultant and you come and you can explain your background, and maybe this person will guide you a little bit and maybe will help you in your career moves. But
So is consultant provided by government?
Yes, exactly. Wow. It's called Pôle Emploi, or now it's called France Travail, which means France works.
All right.
So this is for everyone, only in French. So if you speak French, you can go and you can have this service free of charge.
Only in French language?
Yes, in French language. Also, you have another service called APEC. It's especially for career-wise professionals, like when they say for those who has their master degree, at least, and they are different profiles, but only for them. So this is also free of charge, but it's really there are a few of them. Also for I forgot the name. For people with disabilities, there is a special service for them. And also for young people, there is an organization for young people. So from 16 to 24, something like that. So it's also free of charge. They have a lot of, even financially, sometimes, especially for young people, this one I know, they can provide you some, financial help also sometimes, depending on different criteria, etc. But the problem with all these, that's really great, because it's free of charge, you can go, but there are a few problems with that because the first one, you have to know they exist. And this is tricky because even for the second one, for the, high-end professionals, I didn't know, I was not aware of their existence till quite late in my career. And it's a shame because I really needed it at some point. And I knew it really by chance because someone told me, so there is not so many not so much of publicity on the topic, even if they do. And, when I learn about them and I saw what they're doing, they do, but still, people, even French people sometimes don't know, that there are these services free of charge and etc. And another problem is that you can, it's like a Russian roulette, because you can, have someone very qualified, maybe, like very passionate. Most of them actually are quite passionate about their job. And sometimes it's less a match, Sometimes it just doesn't match. But it's really, you have to be careful. That's why also I was talking, even when it's a freelancer, but if he doesn't have like the right qualifications, sometimes what people say can affect you, so you have to be careful of choosing of the specialist. It's a little bit looks like medicine services, but it's actually true, because some people are more sensitive to this or that information. So someone will tell you something and you're like, oh my God, like I'm a very bad professional, or like I'm worth nothing on the market. And I've heard about these stories, sometimes. So you can try it because it's free of charge. So of course you can go and try, but still sometimes people just meet someone, for example, in some, I go to a lot of offline events, for my own curiosity, or just, to learn something as well. And sometimes when I meet people, I talk to people and they want to work with me because, because it was a match, because we have maybe some values in common and it's just very smooth. So the person will not, search for other, to compare, or they have a need and they met someone and it's working. So they just go with you. So it works like that. And to respond to your question, how people can find me, otherwise than meeting me on some offline events, can be also on the social media, of course. So I have my account on Instagram. It used to be in Russian, now it's in French, because I want to developing on the French market, and also on LinkedIn. So LinkedIn, it's really important in France. It's really like a professional network for professionals, who want to build their careers. And it's really, really, it's an easy way to keep in touch with some people, because it's like on Facebook, but you're very familiar with that. But in case people don't know, it's like your, sometimes, you remember you used to work with this person and you can't remember their name. And even me, sometimes it happens to me. And so I'm like, okay, when was it? So I'm trying to think about, people in common we have. So to find his name on LinkedIn. So sometimes it also can serve this purpose as well. So yeah, LinkedIn, really important. And also like the cold calling, we were talking about that previously, to approach people, on LinkedIn, and to meet some new people from the industry. Maybe the industry used to work in your country, and when you come to another country, just to, like, for me, the first thing to do is to see what is the market here, how does it work, who are main players. So what companies and people who work in these companies, and you can also approach them, like, just in order to make new connections. And for me, it works really, really well. I don't know, what is your experience on this social media?
Yeah, I love it. I use it a lot, and especially LinkedIn. Definitely, I think right now it's one of our main lead funnels, probably, apart from Google search, of course. So yeah, it works really, really amazing. I wanted to ask something related to that. So when you talk about French community in LinkedIn, do they usually prefer like speaking in French and all profiles in French or bio in French? Or what people should expect when trying to find someone from French companies or French HRs? Do people have to be ready to speak in French with them?
So the short answer is yes, but then depending on how you position yourself. Sorry.
No, it's okay.
So yeah, the short answer is yes, but depending on how you position yourself. So if you position yourself as an international specialist in some field, you can still have it in English. But when you approach people, I would suggest actually, even if you're, for example, if you move to France, of course, or Spain or Italy, I think the situation is more or less the same, or Portugal. At some point, you have to learn, the local language. So even if your level is still quite small, I mean, today, especially online, you can look it up, and then you can use Google Translate or any other translation services. So, but I suggest you do it in the local language. But for the profile, depending on your expertise or how you position yourself, you can leave it in English, I think. So, but you always have to be thinking about the person that receives it. So, or the person that is looking for example, like you were talking about this, that I'm looking for a designer. So what words I will put, on LinkedIn search to find this person. So in what language I will put it. So you have to, and also you can try different things. And I think also on LinkedIn, you can have your profile in different languages, but I don't manage.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what I wanted to add. Exactly. You can create a second and third and fourth languages for your account. So you don't have to change your main profile language if you prefer, for example, English. You can keep your English, but at the same time, just add French. And when people from France will looking for relevant profiles, your profile will be shown as a French profile. So this is the perfect way to adjust LinkedIn for best search opportunities, I think.
But also you were talking about HR. For example, when you do these cold messages on LinkedIn, I wouldn't recommend, and sorry if some HR are listening to me, but I wouldn't recommend to write to HRs. I would recommend to write to someone who you can guess to be your future manager, because this the person the most interesting to find, someone for their team, because HR sometimes, of course, they're also looking for candidates, but in my experience, they reply really rarely. So, but the manager, because he is like the most interesting person in the room, so he will reply much more and quicker to the messages.
All right, that's good advice. I wouldn't think about it even. Wow. All right, so you're looking for a manager. Then manager, if he's interested or she's interested, she's contacting their HR, and you just have a meeting.
Yeah, depending. Actually, there is no a standard process of this. But how I do it, for example, if I see an offer that I'm interested in, I will find someone who works for the company and could be this manager for this position. And I will like, I saw this offer. So is it still relevant, or you have already found someone? Because the fact that the offer is still online doesn't mean that they haven't found someone. You see. Because in France,
it's very popular, like common to have position open for future needs.
For future needs, or because they are waiting. For example, they did the whole process with, 10 candidates. They've selected 2, now they've selected 1, and they're waiting for the person to sign the contract. And till the candidate signs, document, they leave the offer online. You see, in case the person, resigns at the very last moment, and it happens very, very often, because right now, the French market is kind of good for candidates. And actually, like, we can say the candidate is a king most of the time in most of the fields. And the candidate has a lot of criteria, for companies. So companies have to adapt. For example, if there is no remote work from home, which is still the case for a lot of companies in France, like the candidate, especially a young one, I don't know, under 35, he would say, like, no way, right now you have to adapt to the time, to what's happening right now. And a lot of people in France, actually, during and just after the COVID, they moved outside of big cities. And now, if, for example, it's only 2 days per week in the office, you can manage, to book a train and to go by train and live like in the countryside. Because before, like, big cities are very crowded, especially, like, for example, in Paris, like, the transportation is, if it's 1 hour to go on one way, it's still okay, or under 1 hour, it's like really good. But today, people can live further from their work, so companies have to adapt.
Right. And I think sometimes people try to bargain with companies to find the best conditions for them possible and not possible. And it makes sense, because for a long time, it was a market of companies. So right now, as things change a little bit, and companies have to compete to provide the best position, the best salary, and best like environment for the successful work, for the motivation of the candidates. And I like it. I mean, it sometimes it has to happen to just stress the industry,
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, exactly.
All right. Before we move to your new idea about coaching of companies, like B2B coaching, if I may say so, let's finish this part about candidates. So what would be your main advices for the candidates who are looking for a job? And as we focus on the French market right now, let's focus on this. And what would you recommend as a consulting, like a career consulting expert, for them to start doing? Doesn't matter if people already moved to France or they're thinking of moving and don't know how to move without finding a new job. They don't have enough money to find like where to live, where to stay. So those main points, what would you recommend to start with, and the most important ones, and what you can help with in this list?
Yeah, okay. So the main point, I think, is to understand the market. So understand what's happening, like I was saying before, like who are the main players, how does it work? If it's like, I don't know, a few big companies or like a lot of small companies. So how does it work? Who are the main players? So this is the first part. So it's the market, but even I think actually it's the second one. So the second one is the market. The first one is yourself. So me as myself, what did I do till this point, So sit with yourself or with a consultant, and here I can help, of course. Okay, to analyze what I've done, what are my main strengths, because I'm really sure that you can't be successful or like really successful if you're operating by your not by your strengths, but by your help me, I forgot the word.
I don't know, just dubs or something. I mean, so you mean like accept your achievements, accept your expertise, accept your experience, and
not even accept, but like analyze what I've done until this point. At what I was like the best, at what competences, or at what type of job, or at what is my strength, and okay, so now I have these, so I've worked this type of companies, at this type of positions. And now, okay, what I want to do. So you always start with yourself. It's actually, I think it's a mistake to start with the market and say, you know, sometimes people are like, oh, there is a lot of need now in IT, so everybody has to be IT. But I'm sorry, I can't, like, even if I really, really want, I can't fulfill this role. I don't have competencies, and actually more than that, I don't want to, you know. So the market can be like very flourish in this IT world, but I'm sorry, I can't do anything. Or like fintech, like, you know, finance and tech. It's like really, but if I don't want to, or I don't feel like I can, you know, I can't do anything with this. So that's why really important to start with yourself. So, okay. But also, so the first part, yourself, and the second one is the market. So what's happening on the market? So because in France, we have this list of professions which are called métiers en tension, that means that for these particular positions, we struggle to find this kind of profiles on the French market. So of course, if we struggle, for example, in France, we need 20,000 engineers for different type of positions. So if, for example, you are an engineer, you want to come to France, your visa actually, your visa can be simplified. Your visa process can be simplified because it's this profession.
Like a list of most demanded jobs.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And actually, it renews every year, so you can. You know, you can find it and you can see. So it's a lot of finance, a lot of engineers, of course. And this is a simplified process. So these are the first one, yourself, then the market. And sometimes, as nowadays, the world is changing so quickly. There are so many, you know, new professions, or like some, of course, with artificial intelligence. So what will be, you know, needs of the market in the next, I don't know, 2 or 3 years. You can analyze, you know, you can find articles, you can find some information even on the internet. So what's going on and how my skills can be transferred, you know, to some of these needs. So something I used to, you know, do, how I can apply all these skills to another position or another market. And then it will be the step of, okay, how I can transfer that on my resume, how I can show it, how I can, you know, because resume is a document, you can play, you know, with some parts of it. So you can put the focus, just even like playing with colors or playing with the police, maybe make it bigger, you know, sometimes the important information. So you can play with that and focus on your skills that can be relevant for the position you want to apply to. So this is the 4th step. So that's why, you know, sometimes people come to see me, oh, can we review my resume? And I'm like, okay, it's the step number 7 of the process, you know, because to be efficient. And sometimes people sometimes accept something in the middle. But sometimes I'd like to go deeper and see, okay, tell me, what is your dream company? This is I love when people come to me and they say like, oh my God, like I'm dreaming to work for, I don't know, Disney. And I'm like, wow, for me, in this case, 50% of the job is done. Because when a person knows exactly what she wants, it's different kind of energy. It's different kind of motivation. And for me, the 50% that we have to do, it's really like technical. Okay, find the right people. And sometimes when you do everything fine, your profile is perfect, but sometimes you have to wait a little bit for an opportunity because maybe right now there is no opportunity, so you have to wait. So sometimes, of course, you can accept something, you know, waiting for this opportunity, but always thinking, okay, my main goal, it's here. So now I will accept not any position, but I accept something that will help me to go where I want to go, So yeah, these are the mains, I think. And also, for as soon as possible to get familiar with LinkedIn and use it, but using it correctly, because sometimes people tell me, they come to see me like, oh, you're talking about LinkedIn all the time and I've tried it and nobody responds. It's like, okay, let's look at it in details. What did you write? What did you write? To whom did you write? And sometimes when I see messages like this, and I'm like, if you receive this kind of message, how would you feel, And sometimes, like, I really want to reply to the person, but when I see 10 questions on the message, I'm like, I will need more time, so I will reply later. So then I forget. And if the person doesn't, write another again to me, I will totally forget. And then I have a lot of messages, so I will never find it like, oh my God, what was the name of the person? And I feel bad because I wanted to reply actually. So also very important input, insight is always, if the person didn't respond, write again. So you wait a little bit and you write again. And also, like, all this networking, like, also get familiar with LinkedIn, get familiar with networking, because also very important, the higher you on the ladder, less you have things, open on the job searching portals. Because at the beginning, you have a lot of offers, for very small positions. But higher you go, everything is deciding on these levels. Actually, someone knows someone and you are discussing. So actually, your main goal is to meet the right persons and to investigate them. So what are your needs? So what are you struggling with? And it's like an interview, but for you as a candidate, potentially, is to learn. So what are the struggles, current struggles, and to think, okay, I, as a professional, how can I help? And sometimes it's just, there is no position, but there is always struggles. So there is always a need or a struggle, and you have your competencies. So this is just the meeting of those. And sometimes I call myself like a bridge between all those, the competences and the candidates. And I'm a bridge between those two. And I help you as a candidate to put everything well on the CV from on one hand, but the most important is go and to meet someone, go to talk to people. And also sometimes, look, on LinkedIn, you don't have to only add only people, like higher roles comparing to your role, but it's also very, very important to communicate with people on the same level as yourself. But for example, imagine you come to France and you don't know anyone, but you have, if you look at different companies and you add people from, the same level as yourself, just to discuss, just to build this new network. And later on, maybe you will need, sometimes to have very sensitive information. For example, okay, I'm going to the interview and they will ask how much I, want as a salary. And sometimes you don't know. Sometimes you can find some information, but you have to be careful not to give, very small figure, because it means that either you don't have any self-confidence, or you didn't, do your homework and searching for this type of information. But if you give a very high figure, not relative to any expectations, you also look kind of bad. So when you have this pool of people, maybe 5-6 people from different companies doing the same role as you want to, you can ask them, but not what is your salary? Nobody in France ever will tell you what is their salary. It's kind of a subject that people don't want, to discuss, which is a shame actually at some point. But you can ask, for example, okay, I'm going to some interviews and I'm planning to give these figures, but not the figure, maybe like from this to that, you never give like just a figure. You always give, I don't know how
range.
Yeah, a range, but not really big, some range. So you give it to the person asking, okay, what do you think? Is it, not too low, not too high? What do you think? So in this case, the person will, of course, will answer. If previously you've built, kind of relationship. And sometimes when I write to people like in cold messages, sometimes I want just to have some information, and people actually suggest like, oh, let's do a video, call, or like a virtual coffee, and it's really something that people love to do. And at some point, actually, because sometimes people ask me, oh, why someone I don't know would answer, any of my questions. But actually, at some point, I think it's our main need to share actually the information and to be a part of a community, and to have a goal maybe bigger than just earn money and just only for yourself, but also share and help other people. And sometimes people want to do this because before someone else did this for them, and it's like a nice circle. So yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I had a lot of calls with people just to meet each other, just to share our experience, help each other. So if I understand it right, you can help on every step of this journey of preparation to the new job. So you can help starting from the analysis of the current experience and skills of the candidate until the meeting strategy and like everything like discussion strategy. And
yes.
Like till the contract signed, right?
Yeah.
That's
and
cool.
And interview preparation, for example, it's something I love to do as well, because sometimes people come to me like, oh, I'm going to the interviews, but I never go, to the second one. So something is going on. So when we do like a mocking interview, I see it straight away, like depending actually on what you are talking about, what you are, what is your story. So it's like the first thing, like always prepare, the first obvious thing to prepare for the interview. But not only like searching the information about the company, why I want to work for this particular company, but also what I'm going to tell about myself, because I can tell a lot about myself. But actually, this is the difference between like a talk and the communication, because in communication you have a goal, and for example, it's not like you're going to write everything you're going to say. It's just to identify, 3 or 4 main points that I want absolutely share, and like the first question, every interview will ask you, okay, tell me about yourself. So what are you telling? How much information you give? Because sometimes, when people are like, okay, in 2011, and I'm already like, oh my God.
Yeah, I know. I feel it.
But you have to, really choose what information you give in what particular case, what the other person wants to hear. It's a little bit about psychology as well. So what you can analyze it on the offer, and you say, okay, they're looking for this or that. So how I present my experience, what examples of my achievements, because maybe I have a lot of achievements, but what examples I give on these particular points, And if you do all this, normally you will pass.
All right. Yeah, so what you describe is 100% is a sales process. So you sell your skills, you sell opportunities for companies, and we don't know how to do it, probably because we don't do it often, right? So people I know people who worked for 20, 30 years at the same company and never moved somewhere else, never tried to move somewhere else. So what their experience in interviews? Like zero. And if they try to do it 1, 2, 3 times, it's still not enough. But if you work with it on a daily basis, every part of the process, and every mistake they could do. So it's a good, for me, it looks like a good way to avoid a lot of mistakes, save your time, save money, and get your job quicker. Looks great. And right now, I would like to move to the last part of our topics, and I want to talk about your idea of working with companies, because for me, it's still a little bit confusing. What exactly could you do for companies, for businesses, as a consulting, like in coaching and consulting area? So if you could tell a little bit more about this, I think it will be useful for companies who's looking probably or never even thought about this, but probably in need for this kind of services.
So in this case, so for my B2B business ideas, is more like on my coaching expertise than a consulting. Career consulting, it's really more on individual professionals that I continue work with, of course. And for businesses, so what they do. So I will start from this preview. So.
All right.
In France, or like I think everywhere, you have companies that people stay for a long time. So you're talking about 20, 30 years, maybe not 20, 30 years, but still, 10 years. 10 years, it's a lot, especially, for example, for Paris, particularly in Paris, because this is a hub where you have a lot of opportunities, a lot of different companies, etc. So in some companies, people will stay like really long, and in some companies, the turnover is just like really huge. So what's going on? Why in some companies people stay, and why people are leaving, in these companies? And actually, the recruitment cost of a failed recruitment, actually, there is a term, failed recruitment. Failed recruitment is if the person stays less than a year. It's 45,000 euros. So it costs you 45,000 euros to hire a person. So a person arrives
Hire
and
a wrong person. I mean, any person, but in case it's successful person, you cover it with their job, their success. So yeah, and if not, you pay for it.
Yeah, and sometimes it's not actually a matter of a person, because, in France, actually, the job market in France is really particular. Why? Because once you get this contract, in undetermined CDI, that's what we call it. CDI, it's like your contract for life, almost, because so the process is really long, and you have sometimes it can be months, but it sure can be weeks, like sometimes 4, 5, 6 weeks. You can have 5, 6 interviews, a lot. So that's why the cost is really high. But of course, it's so it's not. Sometimes it's not the person. Sometimes it's just something that is not well organized in the company. Because normally, for me, when you arrive, you normally have an onboarding, an onboarding process.
Yes.
When, for example, you arrive, of course, you have the information, you have your computer normally, and sometimes even you don't have your computer on your first day, by the way. I've already seen this. And then you just arrived. So it's really rare when you can be, efficient from the first day. So first you're gonna, look at some, presentations on some, graphics, but you can't do it 7 hours per day during a week, So for me, and in some companies they do like this. For example, the new person arrives, and then everything is more or less organized by its manager. So you spend some time with your manager, maybe with your manager of your manager, to have like a very big picture of what's going on. Then you're going like with your colleagues, you have a colleagues or like some different departments. So everything is organized, and you feel very quickly integrated.
Yes.
But in some companies, even like very big companies, successful companies where you have budget to do this, they don't do this. So what happens? It's just you arrive on your first day, they give you the computer, and they send you 10 presentations. So, okay. And you are like a fool 7 hours per day. You're like, you can do like a presentation. So if you are proactive enough, you go and you will organize a little bit yourself, but depending on your character, on your experience, and especially at the beginning, of your career, it's really difficult because you don't know what I'm supposed to do, what I'm not supposed to do. You're like a little bit shy sometimes, or maybe you are an introvert. You don't know how to do, these things. And people, you don't want to bother other people. So you're going, you're just stuck to your computer. You don't know what to do. And a lot of people, actually only 12% of people, professionals, are satisfied with their integration process. 12%. It's like nothing.
A lot of work for you.
Exactly.
88%.
So and if the person is not satisfied at the beginning, like, okay, it looked very nice on the paper, but what I'm supposed to do actually, and people are busy, and your manager is not here, and you're calling him, he doesn't respond, but he wants to, but he's really, really busy, or your colleagues, maybe they are busy too, so you don't know. So, and then maybe you won't stay, that long. So sometimes you will leave even before your
trial.
The trial period. Thank you. Ends. But actually, the new generation, like very young people, will probably leave like
on the first
very
day.
often. Will leave. Maybe not on the first one, but like, okay, a few weeks after, like, no, I don't like this, so we'll go elsewhere. 45,000 euros, so you lose the all the money, and you have to restart the process. So for me, as my first idea, what I can do and how I can do, I will also tell you, is to look what's going on. So what is your culture? What are your processes in places? What's going on? How is the atmosphere sometimes? So this is only one case. I was talking about like the wrong onboarding, but it can also be problem with management, the absence of management, the very hierarchy, all days style of management. It can be actually different things. So my first thing is to look what's going on, why people are leaving. So what's going on? Let's see. Then so with my coaching technique. So I'm using my coaching technique on individual coaching inside companies. So talking about employees, talking about managers, talking about HR. Then doing some kind of report. And then suggest, what can we do to improve and how you should. So this is more of a consulting work. So maybe some kind of training on your management, because actually the problem also, the very big problem in France is that how can you reward someone who is very good at his job? How will you reward it?
Like money?
Yes, but also you will offer him probably a management position.
Promotion.
Promotion, yeah. But promotion, like most of the cases, means management position. So you've been an expert for 3 years, maybe like 2 years in this company, 2 years in another company, and then you're like, okay, so we're gonna reward you to give you a promotion. But not every expert wants to be a manager, and it's not the same, the set of skills actually to be an expert in some field.
It's completely
and
different.
And sometimes, they will give you a training of 2 days, 3 days, 6 days. And like, okay, go manage. And sometimes people are really struggling, they don't know how. They didn't have any good experience with their managers before. And so there is this problem. So it can be different things. So how I can help is I have an external eye. So I'm not in the company, so I can really say things, So after these different coaching sessions, I can suggest, okay, what can we do? We can organize also trainings. I can suggest a team building, because sometimes it can be a problem with the team. So what's going on? Why? Because there is a group of people. It's a group, and there are different steps to become like a performance team. But you can't be just you have, maybe you are 5 team members, but actually just a group of 5 people. So they are not communicating. They are not doing anything together actually, but they are just on the same team, but it doesn't mean anything. So how we can do these team buildings also, or some team coaching sessions as well, to install like the right atmosphere, that people stay, that people stick, and which is what is also very interesting is to investigate. So what works in other companies, in other companies where the turnover is very low. So what they do, and most of the times it's actually very, very good manager that will give you at the same time the autonomy that you need, the social interactions needed, actually official and not official, because both of them are needed when you want to grow, to give you an opportunity to grow. And also like doing the actually HR is supposed to do in France every 2 years a career sit down with you and say, okay, now it's been 2 years. What do you want to do? Maybe you want to stay on this position, or you want to move to another position. What are your interests? And actually HR is supposed also to know what competences like the company will need in the coming year. So according to what employees will tell me, I can say, okay, I will need this, so he wants to do this, so how I can organize this. But it's the work, supposed to be done. Mm-hmm. And sometimes it's not done at all. And if you are not proactive enough, so of course, there is a part of your responsibility as a professional also to do, with yourself, to see, okay, what now I really outgrown my my skills, so what is my next move? So you have to be also, it's not, you're not a baby, so you have to do this thing also. But if you don't have any HR guidance also or what in company, because sometimes you don't know, but you are inside the company, in the company, you can have a lot of opportunities. So that's why also important, very internal networking. So not only be always with your team or only with your department, but also to know other people, to go have a lunch with, never eat alone, have a lunch with this, another person from another department. Sometimes it can be organized by the manager, but most of the time, not really. So both company and employee responsibility, and I can help with the company responsibility, or in any case to improve how things can be done.
All right, thank you very much. I think this is a really interesting idea, really interesting business you can build for companies, because I work a lot in retail companies, especially in international companies, and one of them even were from France. So I completely understand the culture behind it, and those early meetings, monthly meetings, quarter meetings, everything. And I completely agree, it's not always happening, unfortunately. But it has to be done, and a lot of things you mentioned are really important for kind of candidate integration, for trainings, for successful team building. And I agree, it saves a lot of money for companies, and it will cover expenses on your services and save a lot more. Cool. So how companies and candidates, like people who are looking for a job, can reach you for coaching or consulting services? You say that the best way is LinkedIn, right?
LinkedIn or Instagram, or I also have a website actually, but I want to redo it. Mm-hmm. But these 3 ways.
All right.
These 3 ways.
Yeah, so we can put the address of your best connect points in this video, so people will be able to contact you. And I know everybody, don't hesitate to contact Yulia. She'll make sure you're in good hands and find the best job for you and take you through the process. I know sometimes it's stressful process, especially when you quit your job you was working for years, and it's stress already, and then you need to find something else and find it quickly. And especially if it's a new country, it's an additional challenge, but it's all doable, and it's all possible. So don't be scared of it. go through it and you'll get a success. All right. Thanks again, Yulia, for this conversation. It was nice to talk to you. And I wish everyone to find the best job you always dreamed for. And I'm sure you can do it.
Thank you, Alex. It was really nice talking to you. And I hope that 2024 will be a very nice career point for you. And you find your dream job in your dream country.
Yeah, and Yulia will help you with it. All right. Bye-bye, everyone.
Okay, bye.